So I'm super excited about this lineup, and I have been since I tried it and sort of sorted the order out. So let's just dive in with number one. Of course, for those of you that are just joining us for the first time for Scotch Malt Whisky Society tasting, we run this blind. So you have the names of the bottles and the alcohol level on all the bottles, but you don't know what distillery it's coming from, which region that distillery is in, how old the whiskey is, and how much that bottle is going to cost you. We reveal that the second time around. So taste a little bit with us as we go through the lightning round, as we call it, and taste blind, and then we'll talk about what we nose and taste, and you can join in with us on the chat there and say what you get on it as well. Keep some in your glass, and on the second time around, we will reveal that missing information for you. So starting with whiskey number one, which we unfortunately shorted Cam on. Cam received an empty bottle. Hopefully nobody else did in their virtual kit. But this is the Western Shore of the Kitchen Sink. It is fairly hefty ABV wise, 61.1% alcohol.
Smells great.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Cam, it does really smell great.
That's all right. Army said she was going to send me a bottle, so.
That's right. That's right. Another empty sample bottle, maybe. It's very, it's got this great sort of decadent candy floss note to it, right up front. Icing sugar for me, but then it has this underlying, like, there's a little bit of beach sand in there or something along with that.
Interesting. I mean, color says a lot, but I love on the nose that immediately I know this is bourbon, a bourbon cask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I not sand so much, but there's a little like coastalness and even a little like cleaning solution or like a nice sanitized hospital room.
Yeah.
kind of going on there.
Yeah, a little bit of like poached pear in there as well. I'm getting right now. And angel food cake to go along with those sweet candy floss notes.
Very nice.
Salty, very salty on the palate. Definitely potent.
Oh yeah.
It's not overly hot, but you get that it's higher ABV for sure. It took me a while to recover my voice there. Not that it's great at the best of times, but man, I was almost going into the puberty stage there for a second while tasting it.
Oh, it's warm. It gets you right. Like for me, it's right in my chest. I wasn't ready for that off the first sip.
Yeah,
but
it's got
it grabbed me right here.
Yeah, it is warming going down if you haven't had anything else, especially. I've got a beer going as well, but it definitely overpowered the beer by quite a bit. Interesting that this is number one on the lineup.
Yeah, it feels like a high 60 proof in the going down for sure. But it's very fruity and creamy.
Yeah,
at the same time.
Creamy for sure, even along with that saltiness. Maybe just a touch of turf or peat in there as well.
Interesting, yeah.
Just adding a few drops of water just for kicks. And again, if you guys want to, while you're tasting along with us, if you want to have any comments on the whiskey, feel free to jump in on the chat there.
Yeah, tell Cam what he's missing.
Yeah, that's right. best whiskey ever right now. Yeah, it's got that creaminess on the nose coming through with a bit of nuttiness now and going into like a macadamia nut note for me.
Yeah.
Even into cashews.
Will Christie in the chat says dried orange peels on the nose, but there's a strong floral and field grassy note in there.
Yeah, I get the grassiness as well. Floral, it does have that sort of like I would say maybe into like a chamomile
Mhm.
style with a just a touch of vanilla as well.
Yeah. Very cool.
Hmm. Well, let's put that one to the side for now and let Cam get into the game with number 2, which is perfect for tannin. And notice the spelling on tannin there. I believe, although I didn't put it on the sticker here, it does have an apostrophe after the tannin, as if it could be tannin from wood or oak, or tannin as in tanning.
This one smells creamy. To me, this one off the nose is that angel food cake note with like rich icing on there.
It is definitely going more into like an icing sugar note and icing
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
A little bit waxy along with that. And this one was a cask finish. It started its life in an ex-bourbon hogshead, finished in a first fill hybrid hogshead, 219 bottles in the Outturn, 58.1% alcohol. So, and hybrid hogshead, this is a first fill 60-40 split hybrid American and European oak hogshead with toasted heads. So sounds like they used 60% American oak staves and 40% European oak staves. Which honestly, because of the different graining and the different what would it be, tensile strength of the two different oak styles, it must have been like more difficult than you would think to put something like that together.
Yeah, I would imagine it took some doing.
Yeah.
I love how nutty it is
Hmm.
on the palate anyway.
Yeah, it's very nutty. I'm also getting like some nice wood notes to it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Maybe
the wood
some-
with the two different types of oak and then the two different
Yeah.
oak casks is coming through.
Reminds me, I bought this wax I put in my beard because it's so dry out here. I feel like I have dandruff on my face, but that's what it smells like. It smells like that sandalwood waxy smell.
Oh, right on.
Sandalwood, nice.
Again, in the notes, Will says lots of maple and brown sugar. It
Mhm.
reminds me of Quaker oatmeal porridge on the nose, but also there's some wine gums in there.
Yeah, there is some fruitiness and a touch of not quite leathery, but into like something solvent or like a aerosolized hairspray note in there for me.
Oh, interesting. It like as soon as Will said like maple brown sugar, yeah, it reminded me of this sugar scrub that I had in the past.
Yeah,
And oatmeal
sugar
is
scrub
amazing.
and beard wax and
Totally.
hairspray all over the place.
Yeah.
I find it pretty hot. Maybe it's because it's my first one,
Hmm.
and I haven't drank for a while, so
Yeah.
not used to this.
Well,
I've
welcome
been
back
drinking for
off the wagon, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, compared to the
that's
first
great.
one, I don't find it as hot, but it's
No.
definitely got more texture. Like the first one was creamy and salty. This one has a bit more grip on the palate. Not completely drying, but the tannin is there. Again, probably from the two different oak casks and the two different types of oak used on the secondary cask and the toasted barrel heads there as well. And now that I think of the toast along with that maple and brown sugar, there is going back to it, there's a big toasty note on there as well.
Yeah, there really is. The oak, it really is integrated very nicely, but it's definitely there. I added a little bit of water and it just like sweetens the whole thing up.
Oh, cool.
The fruit really comes out more, and
Fruit and pastries.
pastry for
Pastries?
sure. I get
Nice.
more orange on there. It becomes creamier.
That
Now,
maple and brown sugar is almost going into like a caramelized sponge toffee for me.
Interesting. Yeah.
this is one I know which one it is because I have the sheet. I would think this one might be easy to guess if people like this distillery because it's very the flavors are very common, I think, with this distillery.
I would totally agree. And even beyond that, we'll get into it a bit more, but there was a sister cask that we had of this one. That was
Okay.
also a cask finish, if I recall correctly. So, and between the two, I haven't tried them side by side. The other one was back in, I think it might have been January, if I remember correctly. But I think this one is just a little bit more exuberant and puts itself out there, nose and flavor wise a bit more.
So was that the sister cask? Was it the same finish?
That's a really good question, and I might have to look it up after this because
Yeah.
I'm not certain. I just remember Kelly sent an email with a little bit of background info on them and did mention this is a sister cask. So
Interesting.
I'll maybe bring up that email and I'll do a search for that label at the end if I've got the time and tell everybody that. I don't think it was a hybrid cask, if I remember correctly. I think it was.
You don't see too many.
Yeah, but I could be wrong. Well, let's set that one aside and move on to number 3, which is Maverick. Smells like Mel Gibson's playing poker on a steamboat right now.
So it's a little crazy.
You haven't seen the movie Maverick?
No, have I? No, I haven't.
Yeah, I think it was actually like it was one of the 1990s sort of rejuvenations or redos of a old TV show, and it had
I remember watching that with my dad.
it had a couple big name actors at the time. It had Mel Gibson. It had
James Garner, who was the original.
James Garner.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
The original
And
Maverick.
who was the female lead? Jodie Foster. Thank you, Will. Was in it as well, and they were all trying to swindle their way through a poker game, a big poker tournament on a steamboat by the end of it.
Yeah, it was an entertaining movie.
It was, yeah. I had like
And
tons of stone fruit on this.
Yeah, big time. Little bit of oatmeal, or even what is it? Like just crushed oats on there as well.
Yeah.
Matthew, we'll have to come back to that because I honestly, I wasn't aware of the SMWS Guinness Book of World Records attempt.
Email came out just this week for it.
Oh, cool.
Earlier.
I unfortunately check my work email more than my personal email, so I might have missed it.
Yeah, Matthew is currently at the gym right now, so he's unable to taste them, but he's joining in and currently, even though he's not sampling, he's up to date on SMWS history. So it's great.
Right on.
Glad to have you.
That's a nice one. So this Maverick was done for sort of essentially for part of the SMWS's 40th anniversary. Sort of like a salute to the Mavericks in their current and past for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. First Maverick, of course, is credited to being, I think it's Pip Hill, who was the founder of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, and a pretty quirky guy in his own right. This was there's 2,098 bottles of this. It's bottled at 50% alcohol, so it's more than one cask. And it is cut down to 50, I believe. But it started its life in ex-bourbon hogsheads, was finished in a combination of first, second, and refill sherry hogsheads. Really nicely put together. Like it's got these great tea-like notes that I'm getting on the finish right now. And it's got this combination of really well put together sherry, but not over the top sherry at the same time.
Got this nice like breakfasty pancake note. I actually just saw it there as I said that in the note.
Yeah.
I try not to ever read the notes, but I did today. I just have it on a little bar on the side. But banana pancakes is something that I make often, like at least once a week. So I definitely am finding that in here.
Yeah, I can totally see where they're going with that. Again, that oatmeal note coming through with me, for me on, with water.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna add water, but I saw they've got a tasting note with water on the bottom that says dark chocolate, marshmallows and that, and totally get that
Mhm.
with water.
Yeah,
That's
it
a,
dries up those tannins then with some water, hey? Oh, yeah.
the dryness still comes out on the finish, but it kind of lengthens, uh,
Yeah.
the time before you get to that dryness, I would say. That is a really, at least at first glance for me, that's a really nicely to put together 50%er. And I know a lot of us, or most of us, didn't join the Scotch Malt Whisky Society for stuff that was cut down to 50% alcohol. And that's why this is part of what's called the heresy range, because it's heresy to drink stuff that's not at cask strength, or for the society to bottle it at least. But I really like this one. I think it's nicely done. Okay, on to number 4, and we're hitting peated territory already with number 4. This is particularly peculiar potpourri. This is again pearlized for at least the first cask. It started its life in ex-bourbon hogshead. This specific bottling was finished in one first fill ex-bourbon barrel. 27th of January, it was 235 bottles, 62.9% alcohol, which is pretty darn high for a cask finish. Usually when you're transferring, some of that alcohol blows off and you lose a little bit of the ABV level, it seems like, once it hits that much air. But the fact that it's still at 62.9% alcohol is pretty impressive.
And yet there's not much burn on the nose.
No, it's got this really nice soft, and this is going to be a spoiler, and I wonder if they even say it in here, but I'm getting honey and heather right off the top.
Well, it's kind of reminding me of walking on a beach, the nice salty air.
Yep. It's got this interesting underlying mustiness that is almost going into mommy territory as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like some sort of like very musty reduction going on.
Yeah. I mean, I've only ever been on a beach once, and it's taken me back to our Doc Swinson oyster beach day.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the water's out and you've got all the oyster shells and the mud
Totally.
just like hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this one's good.
It's even a little bit with that mustiness, a touch shoe polish-esque on the nose.
Mm.
Will Christie says old driftwood. That's a good call.
Yeah, totally. Good
Oh
call.
man. Cam, I agree. This is really good.
This is
Yeah.
Like sweet and nutty on the finish there. It's got that, and again, I'm probably spoiling the distillery here, but it has this earthy, spicy, peaty build where the peat is almost, the peat is more of a feeling than just like barely sensory. It's not a smokiness to it.
no, that's really good.
Gorgeous stuff. I'm gonna try it with a bit of water just for kicks. I think with the ABV, it should stand up to it. Well, nose-wise, it's not as interesting, I would say, with water.
No, it becomes almost muted.
Yeah,
in a way.
muted is a good. I agree. Like honeyed, you do lose a bit of that nice sort of floral heathery note that it had.
Yeah, but the palate is still very expressive with water.
It holds up.
It does. I actually think I like it more with water.
Mm-hmm.
There's a slight like chemical note without the water that I don't know where it was taking me, but I couldn't place it. I didn't like it. I didn't like that I couldn't place it. Not that I didn't like the whiskey, but I do enjoy it with water. Actually, it's quite nice.
I think I know where you're going with that sort of like slight solventy chemical note. And
Yes,
for me, it almost, with water, it goes into this more like you were trying to caramelize sugar and you just burnt it note. It's like you burned the marshmallow while you were making s'mores at a bonfire, because you get a bit of that graham cracker note to it, but you get the beyond toasted marshmallow and the chocolate in there as well.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I like it with just a few drops of water. Another reason why we like cast strength, because you can make the bottle bigger with just a little bit of water, you know.
Yeah, that's a good one. Solid lineup so far for me.
There's like a hint of Fruit Loop lemon on here now.
Nice. The yellow Fruit Loops.
The yellow Fruit Loop.
Yeah. That's on your rider, isn't it? Like you want a bowl of just the yellow Fruit Loops?
Yes, I do. I actually want the giant Fruit Loop. I was telling you about this a few months ago. If you could buy it by color, I would be into that.
Well, let's go on with a little bit more of a curveball, since we're going out of peated territory and into deep, rich, and dried fruits with Spanish castanets. This is another cast finish. Started its life in an ex-bourbon hogshead, was finished in a first fill Oloroso hogshead, 29th of August for the date, 264 bottles from the Outturn, 58% alcohol. This is like, this is a little bit wild. Like, there's definitely some sherry notes to it. There's definitely a little bit of a, and I'm not going to say the S word on this because I'm not getting it, but it's savory. But it also has, sometimes sherry goes into this, or even rum goes into this slight plasticky or rubbery territory for me. And I'm getting just a touch of that on it. But then it's mixed in with raisins and those Harmony, I always forget the name, and you correct me on this, the lickum sticks, the grape one.
Oh, the dipsticks.
Dipsticks, thank you. The grape dipstick, and just a touch of the cherry in there as well.
Totally.
On the nose.
Yeah. It's got this like awesome, like roasted, toasted nuts with sugar and everything. Like it was all mixed together and baked. I know that's probably where they get the castanets from, but it tastes like almost like a, not so much a peanut brittle, but your Cracker Jacks kind of toasted nuts.
Yeah. That was probably one of the rejected names that would have been good too, was roasted, toasted, and baked.
It's better than I was expecting. I don't know why I wasn't expecting this to be this good.
Well, so sherry wise on the nose, this is maybe a weird note for people, but Will Christie says sesame cashew brittle. Good call. Totally on the nose and on the palate on that. But the nose it's not just sherry, it's almost like a soupy sherry, if that makes sense, where it's not like, sometimes you get sherry where it's almost like a reduction of balsamic, but this is like, this is more into that sort of like soupy, almost like an onion soup broth, where they got it sherry to it territory for me. The nose actually gets better with time though.
My first sip kind of reminded me of like cola syrup in there somewhere.
Oh, good call.
Like my Slurpee is melted.
Yep. Yeah, it does have that. Pleasant sour wine note on the finish. That's kind of where I was going with that balsamic note there too. Will, good call.
I'm getting like a little bit of banana as well, like in the back.
I think that That and
Yes.
more raisin notes come out with water for me.
Yeah. Almost like a rum raisin.
Hmm.
Dave N says his bottle was empty.
Oh no.
Sure. Who poured these?
Yeah, Dave, what did it start empty or is it empty now?
I'm gonna need some more.
I think that answers that. This surprisingly for a sherry cask and a sherry cask finish, I think does really nicely with water.
Yeah, I was just
Few drops.
gonna say that.
Sometimes, especially with wine cask finishes and sherry casks, you almost end up with this disjointed whiskey where the pre-cask finish and the cask finish sort of like pull apart from each other, and the glue is also almost gone. This one just gets more cohesive, which is really, really neat. Doesn't really change tremendously, but I think it just becomes more of itself, a few drops, which is nice.
This one's really interesting. It's not your typical sherry finish, I don't think.
No, but that being said, I can think of one specific bottle from this specific distillery, from another independent bottler that it totally reminds me of. So maybe it's just that this distillery sometimes goes this way with sherry, but we'll have to talk about that on the second round here. Okay, on to the next one, number 6, back into peated territory with Remember. Cool name, which has a reference to it that I wasn't completely aware of, but probably because I'm not from the UK.
Or remembering far enough back.
That's right. Or just repeating myself, I guess, at that point. But so this was one of the gathering bottles. And for the gathering bottles, the 2 times that we've had them in, or 2 of the times we've had them in Canada, they've actually been, Rob and Kelly have sent out cask samples to some of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society people from Kensington Wine Market and Keg and Cork in Edmonton, Legacy Liquor Store in Vancouver, and then the Strath in Victoria. Yeah, Guy Fawkes Day. Thank you, Matthew James. That's what they're referring to with Remember. So a couple years ago, I when we got a sample bottle, it was my tasting notes, or mostly my tasting notes, and my name that ended up on the bottle, which I was super proud of. This time around, it is Adam Bradshaw who named and did the tasting notes. His work picked. Adam Bradshaw is the Scotch Malt Whisky Society guy and one of the whiskey staff, the main whiskey staff at the Strath in Victoria. And his tasting notes, if you read them, are fantastic. And he makes a whole story around Guy Fawkes Night and the Remember, and it does a fantastic job of it. So how is the nose on this one? Sorry,
is this the bottle that we did tasting notes for, Evan?
You know, I'm gonna have to revisit that because I do not remember that bottle being this peated, but we tasted it like 1.5 years ago now, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
because I'm definitely getting peat on this one now. Nice bit of coastal brine and ozone, but it's got this underlying like lush fruit note and grassiness to it at the same time. Will Christie says smoked vegetal and nougat wrapped in an old leather jacket. That's a good note.
Good note.
Yeah, you're nailing it tonight, Will.
I'm loving
this again is it's got just a touch of the eating s'mores around the bonfire as well for me on the nose.
Yeah, it's got a nice ashy note on the palate
as well. Yeah,
that I really like.
Yeah, super creamy and ashy, really nice. Again, sweet notes in behind there. This is like, I know there are definitely people out there that don't enjoy peated whiskey, but this is what I love about peated whiskey is where you get the upfront ashy and peated notes and that earthiness along with it, but then it has this backbone of sweetness that comes in afterwards that sort of balances everything out. This is a tremendous bottle.
This has like a triple chocolate kind of almost overcooked brownie note wrapped in that leather at the same time. which I really like.
Yeah, it's like you got a really good like ganache or something like that, but then there's like a raspberry reduction on top as well.
Mm,
Full on raspberry syrup notes on there for right now for me.
interesting.
Yeah, this is boy. I might have to get a bottle of this because I don't think it's gonna last long.
Yeah, there seems to be a common theme on the chat that many of these bottles are empty.
I know. We gotta talk to our quality control, I guess at the shop, eh?
Yeah.
Maybe they got it a bit too much into the bottle.
Well, you have to have working whiskey to do the work, you know?
That's right.
It's just part of the job.
Oh, and that's part of the quality control. It's got to test as you go along.
Yeah. The problem is when the working people find a whiskey they like too much while working.
That's right.
Yeah.
Did you guys add water?
I'm just doing that now.
I don't want to, but I will.
It doesn't hurt it.
I bet not. It's let's see.
So not that this is like over the top alcohol, but I'm kind of surprised it's only 55.2%. I thought it might have been a bit higher. Oh man, you get this really cool, and now I'm gonna totally like ruin what I said with the really cool, but this really cool barnyard note to it. When you like, it's got this musty hay bale note that comes out for me.
Oh, totally.
Binder twine and all.
Like a really smoky cheese
Yeah.
note too. I don't know cheese people, so I'm not going to name
Yeah.
them. I just know that it's a smoky cheese.
Yeah, we need Jeff Surgic here too, because it's got a little bit of a smoky tea note on there as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the water on the nose at least seems to do just fine.
Mhm.
Palate's good. It's a little bit more salt and fruit without the creamy ash note on the water with water. I think I prefer the nose with water. I prefer the palate without, personally.
That's so fun. I just read the notes and it says applewood smoked cheddar.
Nice.
So
You know,
there's on to something there.
and that I don't think is an uncommon note for this whiskey, this distillery specifically.
Yeah. I love this.
Yeah, it's a man. Any comments, guys, on what your favorite is before we get into the last one here, just for kicks? It's a pretty solid lineup, in my opinion.
Really, Marnie, what about you? What do you have a favorite so far?
Yeah, I do. I like Maverick a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it was only 50%, right?
Yeah,
It's okay. It's all right.
it's got a really nice date note on it right
Yeah.
now. I find Maverick. Just going back to the Western Shore, even, and it just seems it's so clean and so coastal at the same time.
Yeah. I agree that Perfect for Tannin is awesome.
Yeah, it's a great whiskey.
Nosing
We don't
the-
really do votes now for favorite whiskeys on society bottles, because sometimes it honestly does affect the sales afterwards. Where we see one bottle or two bottles sell out and then nothing else sell. But this would be a tough one to pick just two favorites from, I think.
The nose on the Western Shore is amazing right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, Cam.
All right. I think that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
The solid
The-
lineup.
Because it's anything you want it to be, or
That's
imagine
right.
it to be.
Anything you imagine, but it's better than that, I would say, on that one. The Potpourri number 4 is still showing just gorgeously as well.
Mhm.
It's more muted on the nose than the other ones, but it's
Getting lots of peaches on that. Like a
yeah,
cream
definite
peach.
peaches. Yeah. Even on the finish, like you've got the texture of the peach up front, and then the creaminess and the sweetness comes out on the finish there.
Cool.
Harmony, did you try that one that came in the 1,000 peaches?
Millions of peaches.
No, I think
Mm.
it was poured out. Can't remember. Was I in that tasting? I don't think I was.
I don't think so. I
No, I
you
think it
were
was
set.
Cam and I. That was yeah, that was a
That was
crazy
crazy.
bottle.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was that would have been. I swear I must have poured it for you because it was a Pendragon, and I know you like the distillery because it was
I
like
do like.
it was like the most definitive Pendragon whiskey there ever was.
Well, I'll take a look and see if there's still some at the shop, or
Yeah,
give it a try. You know what I like about whiskey that I struggle with in some foods and candies is that I find that the flavors of fruit and whiskey, it feels so real. It
Mhm.
never feels like a chemical flavor. Where when you buy candies and foods sometimes, or even just beverages, the flavors that they're selling you on are so chemical heavy
artificial.
and artificial that I hate buying peach flavored things because it never feels or tastes like real peach.
Yeah.
So when I find it in a whiskey, I always gravitate to it. And I almost always avoid anything watermelon flavored.
Oh
in
yeah,
the
watermelon's
world.
the worst. Watermelon
Because-
and strawberry, I think, are the worst.
They ruin it. So
Yeah.
it just makes me so happy when I can find like a real fruit smell and taste
Mhm.
in something. So yeah, I'll
Well,
definitely find that.
with that, let's go on to number 7 because I told Cam beforehand that I thought this might be his favorite, and I want to see if I end up being right or not.
Can we get a close up on Cam?
Yeah, that's right. So this is called Ready to Rumble. It started its life in an ex-bourbon barrel, finished its life in a refill PX hogshead. 1st of September, 249 bottles, 65.8% alcohol.
Well, that's what these are about.
Oh wow.
So you can probably, for those of you playing at home and that don't have the cheat sheet, you can probably tell what this is just by the nose.
Is it gin?
Oh man, don't spoil it.
Lead paint on the nose.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got a little I forgot to take my compost out.
that's right.
Yeah, that's some funk
Yeah.
to it.
Just a
For
little
sure.
bit of dunnage
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
nose.
There's some green tea in there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
What would
going
be
into
interesting-
it's the green tea pearls I get with just a little bit of jasmine green tea mixed in.
I'm getting chamomile on this.
Oh, good call.
Yes, it actually reminded me of chamomile grappa that I had many years ago.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
that's cool. Green bananas as well that you're just peeling the skin off.
My God, that's good.
Oh, it's Marnie's favorite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
65.8% there, Marnie.
Yeah, yeah.
But
I
it
think
is.
Boozy's in charge now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so no, you were gonna say that, Harmony.
Well, I mean, like you go for the highest one in the night. It's like, yeah. I do yoga and drink wine. 65% later.
Marnie just clears off the other
drink
6
yoga.
glasses and up with this this low
Amateur
ABV
hour.
crap. Let's get to the good one. This is fantastic.
It is.
Again, and I've been using that word a lot in the tasting, but man, what a lineup.
This is a
It's-
stellar lineup.
It's hot though. Oh, it's hot.
It's hot, but like one of those like I can't believe it's this drinkable hot at the same time.
Your eyes are watering, Marnie.
I'm just having a hot flash though. Woo.
Mm.
Little bit of water is good on
Yeah.
this one.
This is
Okay.
the resolution on our cameras are enough that you can probably see the beads of sweat like coming up on our foreheads right now.
Oh,
Man, that like water didn't even like penetrate the surface on that one on the nose.
no. Takes the edge off a little bit on the palate,
Yeah,
but all the flavors are still there.
it does get a little bit into like a slight fennel note, which is really cool on the nose, and into
Mm.
like a basil infused olive oil.
Very cool. There's also for me this like underlined pepper note, like a hot pepper.
Yep.
And
Yeah, it
maybe
does have
even
a spiciness along with the sweet there.
yeah, and there's like a raspberry note in there as well. It's like
Yeah.
raspberry peppers. I don't know.
It's like you ever go to one of the pizza places where they have the honey bottle and then they have the pepper oil bottle, and you put both of them on at the same time. Like it even has that texture to it, where you get like this gloopy sweetness, but this oily spiciness at the
Oiliness.
same time.
Yeah. Yeah, like chili pepper oil and
Yeah.
honey. Yeah.
Makes me want to go back to Banff. There's I can't remember. There's a really good pizza place that does that. It has both those oils there. That is stunning.
Yeah, it is good. Is it in the tasting notes what they did with the final cask? Did you read that in tasting notes? Or is that blanked out?
So it's following X years and X bourbon. We transferred this whiskey into a refill Spanish oak PX hogshead. Yeah. So it the PX hogshead that they used, pardon me, did actually contain a Scotch Malt Whiskey Society whiskey, which is cool.
Ooh.
Very cool.
So it does say on the non-blind notes as well that the PX cask was used to mature 46.88 Curiosity of Flavors, which was from March of 2021. And I do remember that name. Like that was a bottle that we did get here in Canada, which is really neat too.
That is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So before we do go back to the reveal, what are you guys' favorites so far?
7.
Yeah. Cam?
I think I like 4.
4? Nice. Yeah, that is a killer bottling from a distillery known for heathery notes and spicy builds of peat on the palate for sure. Harmony?
I like remember a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I I always pick the peaty ones. Like my bar is like 80% peat.
Yeah.
And then when I want something unpeated, it's like, well, what's the lightest peat that I have?
Yep.
But I also like what is it, like particular potpourri. That's really pretty. Yeah. I also like the Spanish estimates. This is hard.
It is a tough one. Like I'm even going back to number 1 right now, and Cam, this isn't just to annoy you, I swear. But it noses like you just opened a like old school cardboard box of Pink Elephant popcorn. Dave N is asking question, maybe I missed this, but where is the October Outturn? So I'm not sure what you mean there, Dave. Hopefully I didn't say October at the start. Hopefully I said September for the Outturn. If you're talking about the tastings, we should get the October Outturn up soon, but we haven't yet. We'll probably, I'm not sure if Andrew's planning on doing the release for October and November at the same time, and maybe December, just so people can get their tickets early and often. But we'll see. Often we do put a couple months up at a chunk just to sell through them and get people signed up for them. Well, let's go back and forgive me, I'm going to have to play double duty here and line these up and talk about what the reveal at the same time, while I also put them live on the webpage. But let's go back and start with Western Shore of the Kitchen Sink at number 1 again.
Oh yeah, this nose is great.
Like pink elephant, popcorn, and Cracker Jacks, just all over the nose for me.
Yep.
Reminds me of being a kid, and I used to live in Creston, BC, which is just across the border from Idaho and BC. And we used to, this is well before 9/11, of course, because we used to be able to ride our bikes as children across the border into Port Hill. And we'd go down to Port Hill and we'd buy boxes and boxes of Cracker Jacks because they were super cheap and they were lightweight, so we could carry them back home in our backpacks. But also because they contained baseball cards at the time, and it just reminds me of pulling the plastic wrapper of the baseball card out of the Cracker Jack box right now.
Yeah. There's also that like seaweed note on there that I'm sure you like, Evan, because you eat those seaweed wrap
Oh, yep.
sheets. Like,
Seaweed without the iodine, more sesame driven, I'd say.
yeah. This is very good.
Yeah, so let's get this going and then I'll do the reveal here. So there's been a couple times where this distillery has ended up being first in the lineup, and it's not necessarily one that you would think of being number one for a light whiskey in the lineup, but this one just works here in my opinion. Matthew James, yeah, totally. Home of the Creston Valley Thundercats. Is it still the Thundercats? That's crazy. My brother played junior B for the Thundercats, of course, since we were born and raised in Creston. He was their goaltender for probably around 1999 or the year 2000. I didn't know they were still called the Thundercats. That's cool. So this is from Campbelltown.
Oh, it's got to be Glen Scotia. It's like,
Yeah, because it sure ain't Springbank. That's
sure
right.
isn't.
Yeah. So yeah, this is Scotch Malt Whisky Society 93.200, the 200th cask from Glen Scotia Distillery, bottled by the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. It is 9 years old, from the 1st of October 2013, and we've had some great Glen Scotias over the past while from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Most of them have been in that 8, 9, 10-year-old range. And they all just have this cracking freshness to them and this great sweetness and coastal note that just intermingle together in a great manner. I love Glen Scotia in ex-bourbon. I think it just shows so well. And this is exactly what I hoped it would be stylistically when I saw that it was in the lineup.
That's killer. I'm getting like a little bit of a anise kind of note to it. I'm not going to say black licorice completely, but it's there. Just a little.
Well, we talked about Glen Scotia a lot last week when we did the Glen Lomond and Mock Scotia tasting, which was, that lineup just showed so well together.
Yes.
Great lineup in that one, but this sort of evokes what I love about Glen Scotia, where you get this rustic coastal style, but then it marries with this tropical note that a lot of Glen Scotia get just incredibly well, even at a young age. Like you're going into like a little bit of mango and a little bit of pineapple notes on the finish there for me.
Cool.
Okay, next up is Perfect for Tannin. And Cam, you mentioned that this just really evoked the distillery that it comes from for you.
I thought so.
So yeah, this is a distillery known, at least for me, for its like full-on fruit-forward style, like almost going into like fruit salad that you get at like the fruit salad that they put at a wedding, on the or at some sort of summer gathering where it's got the honeydew melon, the pineapple, the strawberries, the grapes all put in there, and then you get the juice that's just run off of everything at the bottom of it, and it's just the full on the juiciness and the fruit all mingled together.
Yeah.
The cask finish on this one changes that style just a little bit, but it's still just bursting through where you get all those fruit notes at the same time.
Yeah, this is like the perfect summer Scotch
Mhm.
in style for me. It's just put it on the table any time of day, hot, cold, even if it's like blistering hot. It's like a Scotch you can stomach in the heat. I like it.
Mhm. So I mentioned this was a sister cask. It was February of this year that the sister cask was from. It was 64.127 going Lux was the sister cask to it. This is 64.138 for this one, and distillery number 64 is a distillery called Manickmore, which we are luckily finding a decent amount of independent bottlings of recently, because Manickmore Distillery is owned by Diageo, the biggest spirits producer in the world. One of probably nearly 3 dozen single malt distilleries that they own in Scotland, and one of more than, 2 dozen distilleries that they don't really focus on. Like Manickmore is one of those workhorse distilleries that they know makes a really good style for blending, so they use most of it in their blending. They don't really showcase it as a single malt, but every now and then we'll get these we'll get a handful of releases from different independent bottlers from probably all the same parcel of casks that were sold off that are just delicious in style and so fruit forward. And I find the cask finish on this one just adds another layer and another spin to it in a really cool manner.
What is the blend that it goes into? Do you know?
Good question. I don't remember off the top of my head. Like I think it's a lot of J and B in there, and maybe even another one we don't see a lot of called White Horse, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong on that though. Well, Christy says, after it's rested, I got some bubble gum and hickory. And says the SMWS Manickmore is also great. Parcel 7. Yeah, that is a fantastic one. It's bottled at 48% alcohol, so still high ABV, and is not quite a perfect substitute, but a decent a very decent substitute for our single cask Manickmore that we had bottled. That was a 13-year-old, I think, from last year. That was just gorgeous in style. But it's a distillery that I wasn't really very well aware of until a couple of years ago, when we started seeing a few more society bottles and then seeing some other independent bottlings of, and that fruit salad style that it has is just delicious, and it is the perfect dram for summer, as Harmony said. So that one, if you weren't looking at your screen, is $183.99, 13 years old, from 2009. And now on to Maverick.
Marnie, is this still your second favorite?
Let's see.
I missed sharing the links for whiskey number 2, so that's there. And does this hold one hold up?
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
It's good. Short finish on it though, I find.
For sherry, yeah. I really do like the nose on this one.
Yeah, the nose is great.
Very sort of like treacle and Christmas cake right now for me on the nose.
It's maybe it's that 65.8%, but this one tastes like water now.
Makes sense.
I know, I was just thinking this would be a good like book whiskey, where it has flavor, but it doesn't have that long finish that's going to distract you from reading.
And it's just about low enough ABV where you might remember a few chapters.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a whiskey for everything, don't you?
Well, I try. I mean, life is short. You might as well
That's
bring
right.
a friend with you.
Yeah, never judges me.
Yeah.
A book whiskey. Never heard that before. That's great.
Okay, so as with a lot of the Heresy range releases, we don't get the full story on this one, I don't believe. But we do know it is from Speyside, and they are classifying this as a 12-year-old. And I believe they do give a date on it as well, which I don't know if that's the comprehensive, everything was distilled on or filled on this date, or if it was the youngest date that they picked. But this is Maverick.
Well, maybe that was like the blended date.
Could be.
Yeah.
So it is still a single malt, still coming from one distillery.
Maverick.
And the fill in the blank on the sheet there.
Is Speyside.
And in the notes, it says, for this creation, we've selected some bourbon hogsheads of blank single malt.
Yeah, just Speyside single malt is what
That's it?
they say it. Tell us. Yeah. So yeah, with most, I think just about every single, if not all, the Heresy range lineup, they never tell us which distillery they come from.
It would just, I mean, why would you?
Yeah.
it would take away the heresy profile.
Yeah, really nicely put together. Definitely holds up. Like it, yeah, you can tell it's a little bit lower ABV versus the rest, but still nicely put together.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, Harmony, yes, it is, but I think it's probably because I find it very balanced, and it's not too hot. Although my favorite is the hottest of the bunch, so or the highest of the bunch. So
Okay, back to one of Cam's and one of my favorites, which is particularly perfect potpourri.
Yeah.
Peculiar, pardon me, not perfect. Although it is pretty.
It is pretty perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
it is really pretty.
Yeah,
like that's a very elegant nose on it.
I would wear this if it was a perfume.
This
You
is,
would, or you would.
I love the like the dichotomy that this distillery shows too, where it's you get the peat and sweet at the same time together really nicely. It's got a little bit of apple crumble. That's just you got a little bit of burnt brown sugar on the top there.
Yeah. It's beginning to. I've added maybe 3 drops of water to this so far, to the first round, and then just 1 drop to every glass before going through a second round. I'm getting like a lot of like wet pulp, wet sawdust. It reminds me of Taylor, BC, like near Fort St. John. They have a pulp mill there. It's reminding me of those days.
It's great when you get those bottles that just evoke specific things in your past.
I'm sitting in the back of my dad's pickup waiting for him to get off of wood at work, and it's raining, and like it's just wet pulp everywhere.
It does have that pulpy note along with that mustiness that we talked about earlier too. Yeah, the wet wood shavings.
Like,
so this is SMWS 4.361, the 361st bottling of Highland Park that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society has bottled. 11 years old, from the 27th of January 2011. Region is Highland Islands for Highland Park, which is in the Orkneys. And for the other blanks, it says at 6 years of age, we combine selected casks from this distillery, then we return the single malt into various casks for further maturation. This is one of those casks. We have had at least 1 or 2 of these. This is from the same distillation as 4.319, which was called From Coast to Kiln. Sorry, From Coast to Kiln, which was another spectacular Highland Park bottling. We've kind of been fortunate in getting a lot of these Highland Parks where the price is coming down a little bit versus the HPs that we were seeing, where we'd see this probably north of 200 or even 250 a couple years ago for a bottle that was the same age. But we've been getting these gorgeous Highland Parks from ex-bourbon barrels and sometimes from sherry, but I really like the ex-bourbon Highland Parks in this style.
The single casks are so much better than their distillery releases.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Highland Park used to be one of my favorite distilleries way back in the day, and they just I think yeah, 18 was spectacular. I just think it's gone down a little bit, my opinion. But you get these single casks, and it takes me right back to why I like them.
I totally agree. Like when I was talking about that apple crumble note, like the 18 for me used to be just like apple pie with brown sugar on top, like just all over the place, and so well put together. But it has lost a lot of its luster for me over the last decade or so. But this is just, even though it's ex-bourbon and maybe specifically because it's ex-bourbon, the notes that you get on it are this weird combination of being so dirty but so clean at the same time, that it's just it's fun to revisit, I guess. Okay, on to Spanish castanuts. How's this one holding up in the glass?
Easy. I like it.
Yeah, the nose is still sticking just fine for me.
I think it's
even after adding water, it's kind of come back together with no issues.
I get this, and it makes me think of chocolate raisins, chocolate covered raisins.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, glossettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Definitely. Oh,
yeah, still has that like grape crush Slurpee or the grape powder on the nose as well.
Yeah, it even has like a little bit of that kind of light chalky minerality that reminds me more of like a pixie stick sugar than the dipstick.
Totally. It's I was gonna say on the palate now, like it's like strawberry yogurt, even on the like a Yoplait strawberry yogurt on the palate right now.
Yeah.
So this is a distillery we've seen some from, but not a ton in the time that the Scotch Malt Whisky Society has been sold in Canada, which is, what are we coming up on? Is it 12 or 13 years nearly? I can't remember. But this is shirt here in a second. This is, oh, that's the wrong one. Sorry. Getting my Manicamores and my Macduffs mixed up all of a sudden. This is from Macduff Distillery. The cask number is 66.64, sorry. So distillery number 6, which means since they do the distillery numbers consecutively, this was the 6th distillery they ever bottled for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. And if you think about that next to the last whiskey we tried, which was 4.36 something, like the 300 something cask from Highland Park, and only 60 casks from Macduff, you can see that they don't manage to get a lot of Macduff casks for some strange reason. Could be due to the ownership, could be due to the fact that Macduff just doesn't sell a lot of casks. I'm not sure, but man, is this one nicely put together. And I mentioned it reminded me of one specific other independent bottling, and there was a bottling from that boutique whiskey company, which I think we still have both mini and full bottles of Macduff. That was, I think, an 11-year-old that had that really nice sort of nutty sherry note to it, just like this one has.
Well, and again, this is a distillery that shows, in my opinion, better in a single cask form than when you buy the Devrons on the shelf.
Totally. Well, and their old bottlings look really good, and eventually we're going to get some newer ones from them. But they used to have this great green sea glass bottles for their official bottlings, but that's been cleared out or being cleared out, and they're being replaced by clear bottles, unfortunately. Sea glass bottle look was really cool, but probably because of COVID and supply chain issues, got a little bit expensive, and I'm guessing that's why they changed it. So this is 6.64. It is 16 years old. That is, I believe, the oldest bottle we have in the lineup tonight. It is from the 29th of August, 2006. And this spent 13 years in an ex-bourbon hogshead before transfer to first fill Oloroso.
Yeah, it's nice.
So is this one that goes in a lot of blends as well?
McDuff?
Yeah.
That is a good question. It probably does go into, oh man, what's the blend that company owns? McDuff is also known, it's bottled often or more often as Devron or the Devron. And that's probably what people know it as. It's kind of at the mouth of the Devron River in Scotland, in the Northern Highlands, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
And does tend to get this nice little bit of coastal salt along with it because of it. And I do get almost like a salted toffee or caramel as I'm saying that. But yeah, it would be, it's owned by Bacardi. It's part of the Last Great Malts line that they call, as they call it, which is Bacardi owns Craig Ellachie, McDuff, which is bottled as the Devron. They also own Aberfeldy and
Royal Braclaw.
Thank you. And then they also own Altmore, which I always forget. And they do have a blend. I'm just blanking on the name, unfortunately. Maybe it'll come to me later. Yeah, thanks, Cam. Open that malt whiskey book.
I'm trying to find it.
Yeah, but
it's Dewar's. It's owned by Dewar's and Son. So it's
Dewar's and Sons, which is owned by Bacardi. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of it would go into Dewar's, and then it's switched. It's also not a well-known name because again, they bottle it as Devron. And even weirder, they bottle it as Devron for like regular bottlings, and then for travel retail or duty free, they bottle it as the Devron. Just to make things even more confusing.
Yeah, I just had someone message me the other day. Can you get the Devron 21? And I was like, I don't think so. I don't think so. Like I haven't seen that anywhere. But
so we did.
This is available.
We did have it during COVID because all of a sudden duty free bottles were offered left and right to liquor stores. But
totally.
Yeah, now we can't.
Yeah.
It says actually that the main blend it goes into was William Lawson.
Oh, cool.
Cool.
Yeah, and that's a bottling. That's a blend that I think that might be one of the bottlings. Sorry.
It's the backbone for William Lawson blend.
Cool. Because that's a blend, if I remember correctly, that is it. It's one of the European countries that is big in. It might be France. It might be just the UK, but. Yeah, it's one of these blends that we just don't see over on this side of the pond.
Yeah, it said in the little book that I had that it's that blend surpasses Dewar's. So
oh wow,
in sales, yeah, so it's huge.
Crazy.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. All the blends that we don't see over here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like it's huge in Mexico, so it's
right.
becoming one of the world's top biggest sellers.
Okay, next up, going back to Remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one that we wrote the tasting notes on, Evan.
Yeah, I think I even have the sample bottle here, and I don't remember getting a ton of peat on it, which is crazy.
It's funny what time can do, hey? just
Oh,
resting
and
in the
it's
bottle.
right on the nose now. It's hilarious that I wouldn't have even guessed what that was from, even though it's like my favorite distillery.
I knew it when I tasted it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, such a good nose.
It's going a little meaty at the moment.
It is.
It's great. Oh, it's so good.
Does Kurt like it?
No.
I think he, although he wouldn't remember, he was pleasantly surprised by it.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. And Andrew, because we know Andrew's favorite
Yeah,
distillery.
I don't think Andrew's been too busy, so he hasn't knows this one. Maybe I'll like pour him this blind and just tell him it's a Bowmore and see what he
Oh my
thinks.
God, please do.
It does have the sort of like smoky olive oil note and applewood cheddar, as was mentioned. That this distillery I get on there a lot of the time. It doesn't go into the full on like tire fire notes that that this distillery sometimes gets though. So this is cask number 42.81. Which makes it, means it's from Tobermory Distillery, but Tobermory does both peated and unpeated whiskey. Being that this is peated, it is known as Ladag or Lacheg or Lacheg. Yeah. Ladag is how I started pronouncing it. Lacheg is how I pronounce it now, but apparently it's Ledchek or Lachek when it comes down to it. I like Lacheg more.
Oh, it's so cool. I really like this one.
Yeah, this is like spot on Lacheg too for me stylistically. Like it's again, I talked about the Glen Scotia being exactly what you want from an ex-bourbon cask for Glen Scotia. This is exactly what you want from Lacheg. Like it's even a bit more clean than Lacheg gets typically, I would say, stylistically. Like it almost goes into Parma Violet notes like you get from Lafroig in some cases and Bowmore. Without going as perfumed. Still has that slightly smoky olive oil note to it. Has that great salt and brine note in the background.
There's still a fruit note in here I can't quite place.
On Tobermory, I get it as both lemons and lemongrass. And I would go more lemongrass on this one.
Lemongrass, not a fruit, but yeah. I'm ruined. I can smell Tony cooking. And he's made toast. I've asked him not to do this while I'm doing these tastings. It ruins everything.
Yeah. That burnt toast note, and you just think you're having a stroke.
Like buttered toast and sausages. No, you're not getting there.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I turned it on.
So this is 14 years old, from the Isle of Mull, so Highland Island for the region, from the 29th of March 2007, and I feel like with Tobermory and specifically Lacheg, we're going to look back at probably around 2007 and 2008 as being like prime years for this style. We've had multiple bottlings in the 12, 13, 14-year-old range that have all been from this distillery and that those vintages that have just been fantastic. And this is another one in a long line. And cheers to Adam Bradshaw from the Strath for picking and writing the tasting notes and the title, the name of this bottle, because they're great notes.
I don't love this one on the nose, but I love it on the palate.
Yeah, it's everything I love about Lacheg, where it's like dirty and coastal and weirdly clean at the same time, like I said with the Glen Scotia, where it's just it's got notes that I love in whiskey that I hate as food, like olive brine. Can't stand olives. I like olive oil, really? But black olives and stuff, not a big fan of, but it goes into that sort of like dirty, funky, oily note in a great way.
Yeah, this particularly the ripe olives, you know, the ones you get in the can and sliced up, that I love to cook with.
Yeah, there's that and another distillery called Kilhoman on Isla, where I get like you're walking past the olive bar at a superstore, nosing and tasting note to it.
Well, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. And speaking of olives, because I do get a little bit of that on number 7 now. Let's go back to Ready to Rumble.
No,
Oh man, I'm getting so much chocolate on this now.
Nice.
Like chocolate pudding.
So for those of you that we didn't really talk about it, sorry, Camel, but this is a rum, and definitively a rum on the nose and palate for me, but for other people, their mileage may vary. And what were you saying there, Cam?
I was going to say I'd be interested for those rum drinkers out there if they're able to tell which distillery this came from or
Yeah.
what type of rum it is, because I think it is very it has notes of a specific type of rum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Sean could get this one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I had a little bit of an inkling, but I don't know my rum as well as he does, or you do. I don't think, Cam, either.
It is.
So Will, what country do you want to guess there?
Country, yeah. Yeah, the distillery.
I actually know, so I can't guess.
That's fair. So this is a Jamaican rum. Comes from a distillery called Worthy Park that does some great rum. I was going to say whiskey for some reason, but man, I think we've had another R11 in the past, if I remember correctly. That was great and maybe a little bit older. But good grief, this is such a gorgeous rum, and I'm not typically a rum lover. I like it, but there's been a couple society bottlings of rum that have just knocked my socks off, and this is now one of them as well.
Yeah, what I like about this is it's not sweet like your typical rums.
Yeah,
totally. So
Right,
this is 11 years old from 2011. And sorry, Harmony.
no, I was just gonna say this is like a rum that you can actually get behind and enjoy for its profile, not just sweetness. Like there is sweetness here, but there's so much more.
Yeah, I know, I agree totally.
Well, I agree too, where like this surprisingly, at least for me, is not jarring in a lineup like this. Like, yes, it does have to come last because it's like crazy over the top on flavor and alcohol. But it's not like, oh, this should have been in a different lineup or a rum tasting. Like it does fit in a tasting of single casks really nicely.
Yeah, I was worried.
Says root beer, nice.
I was worried actually when we finished with that on the first round, like how it would be going back through. I was very nervous, but it, as Cam can attest, it worked really great with the first one moving into the second one. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
It didn't affect it at all.
Yeah, fantastic bottle.
Yeah, I had to save that what's left for Tony because he used to be a rum drinker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you got to convince him to get a bottle.
I don't know. He's difficult. Yeah. I had a couple of friends over the other night for some whiskey, and it turned into like 11 or 12 whiskeys. And we're going through just like drawers and drawers of samples that I've saved up over the years. And when I walked my friend home, I got home, he was like, I hated all of that. I don't want to talk about whiskey. I don't want to drink whiskey till 11 o'clock. Please don't make me do that again. And I was like, okay, I hear you, and I will never invite you to a whiskey gathering.
That's right.
I'm going to the Banff Whiskey Experience in December. I don't know what he's going to do while I'm there, but I'm sure he'll figure something out.
Yeah.
But he has to come with me because he needs to take care of me when I get back.
That's right. Someone's got to be the DD.
Yeah.
And I just find with the Jamaican rums, they have some of that demerara sugar, but I think Cam mentioned it earlier. There is a funk that I think they're very proud of. And
Yeah,
I think it's because it's sort of like a sour mash with bourbon,
yeah,
like they reuse part of the previous batch, and
yeah.
they've been doing it for decades, I think, in some places. And it's just evolved into this very interesting but very characteristic Jamaican style of rum.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just removing pins so we can see you there, Will. Um, I think if I remember correctly, it's called Dunder, or the Dunder pile. And it's almost acts as like they use it as a back set or a back seat or like a sour mash, as you're saying, where they add a little bit of it just to give the good enzymes a chance to proliferate when they're making the mash.
So is Dunder similar to like an Asian spirits with like sorghum style?
So sorghum is a specific grain, if I remember correctly.
What is it when they like pile all the stuff outside and it sits in the elements and it's just open and blended and sitting and wet and
Yeah,
dry?
I don't remember what they
dry.
call it, or I'm honestly not sure what they call it on the Asian side of things, but it would be the Dunder pit when it comes to rum.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to look it up.
yeah,
It's just rotting organic matter that they throw
Yep.
back in.
yep.
Well, it is essentially.
This is that funk taste.
Well, I remember when I tried like my first Chinese whiskey. It was some sort of maiju, and it was like it was not for me. I was not ready. In the day, I wasn't ready on the palate. I wasn't mature enough in my learning of spirits to appreciate it. And I said, like, what the heck is this?
Hmm.
And he told me like it's kind of like a sour mash, but he said we just leave all of our grain in a pile outside, so it just mingles with what's in the air. Bugs fall out of the sky, die in it. Birds poop on it. It rains, it dries. It rains, it dry, and then we distill it. And I was like,
Hmm.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm not buying this.
It's yeah, and and I thought putting a raw chicken into the still for mezcal was weird.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was just like what they did. They didn't have a house for the grain. It just was sitting out there. And this is just something culturally that they is common and is some put in some of their most sought after spirits.
Mhm.
Just really interesting.
So, Will, thanks for adding the Wikipedia there. Dunder is the liquid left in a boiler after distilling a batch of rum. But yeah, it's Scott says that's Motai or Mutai
Yeah,
stylistically.
yeah.
Cool. Well, hopefully everybody enjoyed the tasting. I'm honor bound, I guess, or hate to tell you that it was an awesome lineup, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can just take it with a grain of salt. But I tend to like the stuff anyways. When it comes to Scotch Malt Whisky Society Outturns, this is always my favorite time of the month, is doing these tastings, both virtual and live. But I was so excited to share this tasting with everybody, because it just seemed like it was a tasting lineup that went from high to high to high for me when I decided on the order. And it did the same thing here for me, where it was just like, oh man, like it's not going to get any better than this every time I try a new dram. And then we end on that rum, which I love Lecheg, I love Glen Scotia, but that rum is just utterly fantastic to cap the night off with. Just a great lineup altogether.
Yeah, it was really great. I just finished my last sip of the triple P.
Mm-hmm.
Had too much. I'm not going to try to say it all, but it was great. Very peachy and fruity, and I really liked its like
Right on.
creaminess there. Yeah.
Well, I don't get paid. I don't get paid to do these anymore, Evan. But I will say that this was a stellar lineup. It's fantastic.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Cam, for your at least more unbiased opinion.
I was gonna
That's
say
good to
a
have.
true
Yeah,
opinion of the
that's
night.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't fire him anymore. So that's the God's honest truth right there. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you to Harmony and Cam and Marnie for sitting in with me. To all the guests and everybody and everybody else. I hope you guys enjoyed the tasting. Hopefully I'll see you in October, if not before that. And everything is live now on the website, so you guys get first stab at it before we do the live tastings, which there's 2 of them tomorrow. So act soon if you want a couple of those bottles that might not last too long. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Night.
And then